The massive ship appeared suddenly near Earth's orbit, its sleek design unlike anything humans had built. Admiral Day watched from the command center as the alien vessel approached the orbital defense platform. His expression remained calm, but his fingers tapped nervously against the console. "Sir, they're broadcasting a message," Lieutenant Kim said, her voice steady despite the tension filling the room. Universal mathematical sequences followed by what appears to be a request for communication. Day nodded. "Put it on screen." The communications officer worked quickly, and soon the main display flickered to life. The beings on screen had bluish skin, elongated heads, and 4 arms. They wore ornate uniforms covered with symbols that might have been military ranks. "I am Ambassador Talon of the Galactic Hegemony," the central figure announced through what must have been a translation device. "We come in peace to welcome your species into the greater community of worlds." Earth's hastily assembled response team included Admiral Day, Lieutenant Kim, and Dr. Han, Earth's leading xenobiologist. The meeting was set for the next day aboard the neutral ground of Earth's largest space station. When the humans arrived, the aliens did little to hide their surprise at human appearance. "You are smaller than expected," Ambassador Talon remarked, looking down at the humans. "Our scans indicated your planet has unusually high gravity and radiation levels. Most species from such environments develop more robust physiology." "We manage well enough," Admiral Day replied with a slight smile. As the tour of the station progressed, the aliens asked numerous questions about Earth's history and development. Their tone became increasingly condescending. "Most young species require several centuries of guidance before they're ready for independent space travel," Talon explained. "The hegemony provides protection and technology in exchange for resources and loyalty." Dr. Han raised an eyebrow. "You mean as a protectorate?" "A mutually beneficial arrangement," Talon corrected smoothly. "Your technological development is adequate, but primitive compared to hegemony standards." The meeting might have continued in this vein if not for the unexpected alert that sounded throughout the station. Lieutenant Kim checked her communicator and whispered something to Admiral Day. "It seems we have an opportunity to show you something interesting," Day said. "One of our test vessels is returning from a mission. Perhaps you would like to observe its docking procedure?" The aliens agreed, though with the air of adults humoring children. The observation deck provided a clear view of the approaching ship. Unlike the standard vessels in Earth's fleet, this one had an unusual design, asymmetrical, with exposed components and strange protrusions that seemed to serve no obvious purpose. "What is that?" asked one of Talon's aides, his professional composure slipping for the first time. "The HSS Thunderbolt," Admiral Day replied casually. "Just a prototype we've been testing." The alien delegation watched in silence as the ship performed a series of maneuvers that should have been impossible given its configuration. It moved with incredible speed, changing direction without the expected momentum effects. "Those energy readings can't be correct," muttered another alien, looking at a handheld scanner. "According to this, the ship is generating power levels that would tear apart any conventional drive system." Lieutenant Kim smiled politely. "Our engineers had to get creative with the design." When the Thunderbolt docked, Captain Sung emerged from the airlock and approached the group. He bowed slightly to the alien delegation. "Sorry for the interruption," he said. "We detected some unusual energy signatures near Jupiter and went to investigate." Ambassador Talon's eyes narrowed. "What kind of signatures?" "Cloaking technology, we believe," Sung replied, meeting the ambassador's gaze directly. "3 vessels, using a frequency band we hadn't encountered before today." The silence that followed was heavy with unspoken accusations. "Perhaps," Admiral Day suggested, "we should continue our discussion of mutual cooperation and transparency?" The remainder of the meeting was noticeably different. The aliens asked more specific questions about human ship designs, power generation, and weapon capabilities. Their earlier condescension had vanished. When the delegation finally returned to their vessel, Lieutenant Kim moved beside Admiral Day at the viewport. "They seemed worried," she observed quietly. Day nodded. "They should be. They came expecting to find primitives ready for conquest disguised as protection. Instead, they found something they don't understand. Will they return peacefully? No, the Admiral replied, watching the alien ship accelerate away from Earth. They'll be back, but not for friendly talks. We need to prepare. In the darkness of space, the hegemony vessel transmitted an urgent message to its command: humans have developed unexpected technologies. Their ships violate conventional design parameters. Recommend immediate containment strategy before they advance further. Security Chief Tay moved quietly through the research lab, tablet in hand, as scientists examined the captured alien probe. 3 weeks had passed since the hegemony diplomats left, and their spy devices had begun appearing throughout the solar system. What have you learned? He asked Dr. Han, who was elbow-deep in alien circuitry. She didn't look up from her work. Their technology is both advanced and strangely limited. The materials are centuries beyond ours, but the applications are unimaginative. Explain, Tay prompted. Look here. She pointed to a complex component. This power regulator is made of materials we can't even identify yet, but its design is inefficient. They've never had to worry about power conservation because their materials are so good. Across the room, Engineer Park called out, Chief Tay, we decrypted more of their communications. You need to see this. The monitor displayed translated text from hegemony intelligence reports about Earth. Tay read aloud, subject species evolved on death world conditions. High gravity, high radiation, extreme weather patterns. Survival traits include unusual problem-solving capability and dangerous physical resilience. They think we're scary, Dr. Han said with a small smile. There's more, Park continued. They're particularly concerned about our ships. According to their engineering principles, our designs shouldn't work at all. Tay nodded slowly. That explains their reaction to the Thunderbolt. The meeting in Admiral Day's office later that day included all department heads. The large display showed the positions of 3 cloaked hegemony vessels currently observing Earth. They're gathering intelligence, Tay explained. Standard procedure before they decide how to handle us. Handle us? Lieutenant Kim asked. The hegemony has encountered 15 other spacefaring species, Tay replied. All were incorporated as protectorates. Those who refused were removed. A heavy silence fell over the room. What are our options? Admiral Day finally asked. Dr. Han stepped forward. I recommend we give them something to see. 3 days later, the HSS Defiant approached a hidden hegemony vessel near Jupiter's moon Europa. Captain Sung stood calmly on the bridge as his crew prepared for the encounter. Their cloaking systems are active, but we can track the energy signature, reported the sensor officer. They don't know we can see them. Take us within 50 kilometers, then activate the pulse, Sung ordered. The Defiant moved with precision, approaching the invisible alien ship. When they reached the target distance, Engineer Park activated a device they had reverse-engineered from the captured probe. A wave of energy washed over the area, and suddenly the hegemony vessel flickered into view, its cloaking systems disabled. Open communications, Sung commanded. The alien captain appeared on screen, mandibles clicking in what might have been alarm. This is Captain Sung of Earth Defense Force. Your cloaking system appears to be malfunctioning. Would you like assistance? The alien's 4 eyes blinked rapidly. How did you detect us? This is impossible. We're full of surprises, Sung replied. Please power down your weapons or we'll be forced to take action. After a brief standoff, the hegemony ship complied. Human engineers boarded the vessel, ostensibly to help repair the cloaking system. In reality, they were there to learn everything they could. The alien crew watched in growing horror as humans swarmed over their systems, understanding technology that should have been beyond their comprehension. They're adapting too quickly, one hegemony officer whispered to another. Command must be informed. Back on Earth, Admiral Day reviewed the findings from the captured vessel. The hegemony was far larger than humans had initially thought, hundreds of worlds across multiple star systems, all under central control. Their military capacity is enormous, Tay noted grimly. We couldn't win a direct conflict. No, agreed Day. But perhaps we don't need to. He pointed to a section of the report detailing hegemony ship designs. They've standardized everything. Every vessel follows the same design principles, uses the same tactics. They haven't faced a real challenge in centuries. Dr. Han nodded enthusiastically. That's their weakness. They've forgotten how to innovate. The following week, work began on a new vessel that would combine human ingenuity with adapted hegemony technology. Engineers worked around the clock, ignoring conventional design limitations and safety protocols. Meanwhile, the captured hegemony officers were treated well, given tours of human facilities, and allowed to witness the rapid advancement of Earth's technology. This was no accident, every demonstration was carefully planned. Let them see, Admiral Day instructed. Let them report back what we can do. When the aliens were finally returned to their repaired vessel, they departed quickly, transmitting furiously to their command. The message that reached Hegemony High Command caused immediate concern, humans adapting at unprecedented rates. Their understanding of our technology defies explanation. Most concerning, they aren't afraid of us. The Hegemony Council convened an emergency session. The question before them was simple but troubling: what should be done about Earth? The message arrived on all Earth frequencies simultaneously. The Hegemony Council's ultimatum was clear: Earth would join as a protected species under their rule, or face the consequences. Humanity had 30 days to decide. Admiral Day called an emergency meeting with Earth's Unified Defense Council. The large chamber was filled with military leaders, scientists, and government officials from around the world. They expect us to surrender, Day said, his voice calm despite the tension in the room. They've done this 15 times before with other species. Dr. Han stood up, her expression determined. We've completed the prototype. It's ready for testing. Already? Asked one of the officials. The integration of their technology should have taken months. Engineer Park smiled slightly. We worked quickly. 19 days later, the HSS Thunderchild waited in Earth orbit. The ship looked nothing like traditional human vessels or the elegant designs of the hegemony. Its hull was asymmetrical, with exposed components and strange protrusions that seemed to follow no logical pattern. Parts of it glowed with energy that shifted colors in unpredictable ways. Commander Jean stood on the bridge, watching her crew prepare for the demonstration. They had trained for weeks in simulations, but this would be the first full-power test of the hybrid systems. The Hegemony diplomatic vessel has entered the system, Lieutenant Kim announced from the communications station. They're requesting that we meet them at the agreed coordinates. Set course, Jean ordered. And power up all systems. Let them see exactly what we've built. The Thunderchild moved with impossible grace for its size, accelerating rapidly toward the meeting point near the moon. The Hegemony ship waited there, a large, elegant vessel with smooth curves and glowing blue engines. They're scanning us, reported the sensor officer. Their energy signatures just spiked. Commander Jean smiled. Good. Open a channel. The main screen activated, showing the Hegemony ambassador. His four eyes widened slightly at the sight of the human bridge. Commander Jean of Earth, she greeted him. We've come to discuss your proposal. Ambassador Talon, he replied stiffly. Have you brought your acceptance of our generous offer? We've brought a demonstration instead, Jean said. Please observe carefully. She nodded to Engineer Park, who activated a sequence on his console. The Thunderchild suddenly vanished from the Hegemony sensors, reappearing 3 seconds later behind their vessel. Impossible, one of the alien officers exclaimed. Their mass should prevent such rapid spatial displacement. Before they could recover, the Thunderchild performed a series of maneuvers that defied conventional physics. It accelerated in patterns that should have crushed the crew, changed direction without apparent momentum effects, and briefly split its energy signature to appear as multiple vessels. What you're seeing, Jean explained calmly to the stunned ambassador, is the first of our new fleet. We've found your technology quite inspirational. These designs violate safety protocols, Talon responded, his voice less confident now. Your ship should tear itself apart. Perhaps by your standards, Jean agreed. But humans evolved on a death world, Ambassador. We have different tolerances for risk. To emphasize her point, the Thunderchild activated its main weapon system not to fire, but to demonstrate its power capacity. The energy readings that the hegemony sensors detected caused immediate alarm on their bridge. You've weaponized the power core? Talon asked, mandibles clicking rapidly in what humans had learned was a sign of distress. That's forbidden technology. The energy containment alone would require. As I said, Jean interrupted gently, different tolerances. The demonstration continued for 20 minutes. Each maneuver and system activation was carefully planned to showcase specific capabilities that the hegemony had believed impossible or too dangerous to implement. When it was over, Jean addressed the ambassador one final time. We appreciate the hegemony's offer of protection, but as you can see, Earth is quite capable of handling its own defense. We would, however, welcome discussions about trade and cultural exchange as equals. The transmission ended, and Jean turned to her crew. Well done. Return to Earth orbit. As the Thunderchild moved away, the hegemony vessel remained motionless for several minutes before finally activating its engines and setting course out of the system. Within hours, hegemony communication channels across multiple star systems were filled with urgent messages about the human demonstration. Security recordings of the Thunderchild's capabilities spread quickly, causing concern among military leadership. A phrase began to appear in reports and conversations throughout hegemony space: humans shouldn't have ships like that. In response, the Hegemony Military Council overrode the diplomatic process. A battle fleet was assembled, 30 capital ships with full support vessels. Their mission, to neutralize the human threat before it could spread. On Earth, Admiral Day received the intelligence report about the approaching fleet. He wasn't surprised. How long until they arrive? He asked Security Chief Tay. 3 days, Tay replied. They're moving fast. Day nodded. Then we'd better get ready to show them what else we can do. The moonlight cast long shadows across the abandoned warehouse as Maya stood facing her nemesis, Marcus. Years of tension and unresolved conflict hung between them like a thick, heavy curtain. Her hands were clenched, muscles tense, ready for whatever might happen next. Marcus looked different from their last encounter. His once neat appearance was now ragged, with a wild look in his eyes that suggested he had nothing left to lose. A small pistol hung loosely in his right hand, occasionally catching the dim light that filtered through the broken windows. You've been tracking me for months, Marcus said, his voice surprisingly calm. Did you really think you could catch me? Maya didn't respond immediately. She had spent years preparing for this moment, studying his patterns, understanding his criminal network. Every movement she made was calculated, every breath controlled. Behind her, 2 police officers were strategically positioned, but not too close to compromise her plan. The warehouse was a maze of old metal shelves, rusted machinery, and scattered debris. Each of them knew the terrain could become both a shield and a potential trap. Maya had chosen this location carefully, isolated, with limited escape routes, perfect for a final confrontation. Your network ends here, Maya finally spoke, her voice steady and determined. She took one careful step forward, watching Marcus's reactions. Her training as a detective had prepared her for moments like these. High stakes, potential violence, the thin line between capture and disaster. Marcus laughed, but it was a hollow sound that echoed through the empty space. You think you understand everything, but you know nothing. In that moment, Maya realized this was more than just a criminal takedown. This was personal. Something in Marcus's tone suggested a deeper connection, a history she hadn't fully understood until now. Suddenly, Marcus moved. His hand with the pistol swept up, but Maya was already in motion. Years of physical training kicked in as she dodged, rolled behind a large metal container, and drew her own weapon. The sound of a gunshot rang out, sharp and loud in the enclosed space. Dust and small metal fragments sprayed around her as the bullet hit the container. Maya's heart raced, but her hands remained steady. She knew Marcus was unpredictable, dangerous, and cornered the most dangerous combination. "You can't escape," she called out, moving strategically between the warehouse's shadows. "Every exit is covered. Every path is blocked." Marcus knew she was telling the truth. His criminal empire had crumbled over the past months, with Maya systematically dismantling his operations. This was the final act, the moment where everything would be decided. Another shot rang out, but this time Maya was prepared. She returned fire, the sound of her weapon sharp and precise. She wasn't aiming to kill, just to control, to contain. The dance continued. Marcus moved between shelves and old machinery, trying to find an advantage. Maya matched his every move, always one step ahead. Her years of training, her understanding of his psychology, gave her an edge. In a sudden moment of desperation, Marcus made a mistake. He exposed himself for just a fraction of a second, and Maya took her chance. A well-placed shot to his shoulder sent him spinning, his weapon clattering across the concrete floor. "It's over," Maya said, approaching him carefully, her own weapon still trained on him. Marcus looked up, a mixture of defeat and something else, respect, perhaps, in his eyes. The police officers moved in, securing him, reading his rights. As they led him away, Maya felt a complex mix of emotions. This wasn't just about capturing a criminal. This was about closing a chapter, about bringing justice to countless victims. The warehouse, once filled with tension and potential violence, now stood silent. Moonlight continued to stream through broken windows, casting long shadows across the floor, a silent witness to the confrontation that had just ended. 6 months after the warehouse confrontation, Maya's life had transformed completely. The successful capture of Marcus had not only closed a significant criminal case but had also reshaped her understanding of justice and personal boundaries. She sat in her small apartment, surrounded by case files and photographs. The walls were no longer just work documents but a complex map of connections, stories, and unresolved mysteries. Her detective work had always been more than just a job, it was a calling. The morning sunlight filtered through thin curtains, casting soft shadows on her desk. A cup of half-finished coffee sat beside her, growing cold. Her phone buzzed, a message from her police captain, congratulating her on another successful operation. But something felt different now. The thrill of catching criminals had been replaced by a deeper, more reflective understanding. Maya realized that every person she pursued had a story, a background that led them to their current path. Her recent therapy sessions had helped her process the intense confrontation with Marcus. She understood now that her relentless pursuit wasn't just about law enforcement, but also about healing her own past wounds. The line between personal vendetta and professional duty had always been blurry for her. A knock at the door interrupted her thoughts. It was her partner, Detective Rodriguez, holding 2 coffee cups and looking tired but satisfied. "Another case closed," Rodriguez said, placing a cup near her. "Marcus's entire network is now dismantled." Maya nodded, but her mind was elsewhere. The victory felt hollow compared to the complex human stories behind each arrest. She had learned that justice wasn't just about punishment, but understanding and prevention. Her apartment reflected her new perspective. Alongside case files, there were now books about psychology, social rehabilitation, and community intervention. She was slowly building a broader approach to her work. The city outside her window continued its constant rhythm. People moved, worked, struggled, and survived. Maya had become more than just a detective who caught criminals. She was becoming someone who wanted to understand why people made certain choices. Rodriguez noticed the change in her. "You're different," he commented, sipping his coffee. "Not just as a detective, but as a person." Maya smiled. The confrontation with Marcus had been a turning point. She had discovered that every criminal was also a human with a story, with pain, with reasons behind their actions. This didn't excuse their crimes, but it provided a deeper context. Her phone rang again. A victim support group wanted her to speak about her experiences, about how law enforcement could approach cases with more empathy. She accepted without hesitation. The world outside her window continued to move. Cars passed, people walked, the city breathed its complex, interconnected life. Maya felt more connected to this rhythm now, understanding that her role was not just to catch, but to help, to prevent, to understand. Her latest case file showed a different approach. Instead of just focusing on arrest, she was now working on intervention strategies, community programs, and rehabilitation techniques. The system needed more than just punishment, it needed understanding. Rodriguez watched her, sensing the transformation. "You've changed the game," he said quietly. "Not just in how we catch criminals, but in how we see them." Maya looked at the photographs on her wall, not just mugshots, but images that told complex human stories. Each picture represented a journey, a struggle, a potential for change. The sun continued to rise, casting new light on her apartment. The coffee grew cold, the case files remained spread out, but something fundamental had shifted. Maya was no longer just hunting criminals, she was trying to understand the human condition. Her phone buzzed one more time. A new case, a new opportunity to make a difference. But this time, she would approach it differently, with compassion, understanding, and a belief in human potential for change. The city outside continued its endless dance of life, movement, and possibility. And Maya, once a detective solely focused on catching criminals, was now becoming something more, a bridge between justice and human understanding.